thank you everyone for joining. Like I said earlier, happy Independence Day weekend. All right. So now that I've quickly reviewed the first two lessons by skimming them over, it seems like you went over the present active indicative and the present active infinitive in the previous chapter. There's going to be a lot of grammatical jargon thrown around when learning an ancient language because grammar is the medium by which a language is learned. So let's go over what these things mean. Present tense. Someone give me an example of a present tense.
Walking.
Walking. Yeah. I am walking. That would be present tense, absolutely. And now we have active and indicative. That would be tense. That would be voice and mood. So can someone give me an example of active voice? No worries. Okay. So active voice is when a subject is performing an action. So literally, again, I walk. That's all that would also be active. And then in the indicative mood indicates matters of fact, opinions, or questions. So again, I'm walking, I'm reading, all of these things, I'm closing, I'm kicking, I'm just the most basic type of verb is present active indicative. And we'll usually, I imagine this book follows the same format. Usually you go through all the moods first. So you see present active indicative and then present active infinitive, and then you get to understand the present actives intimately, and then you go through. But anywho, I digress. And then you learned the infinitive. The infinitive is a weird mood. Anyone know, can anyone give me an example of an infinitive verb?
I'll take a crack. So in English, it's a little tricky. In English, you usually put the word to in the front. So the
Yes,
infinitive of walking would be to walk.
yes, that's exactly correct. So if I wanted to take that, thank you so much, that was perfect. If I wanted to take a present active indicative verb such as I walk, and then turn it into the present active infinitive, right, meaning it's infinite, it's literally not defined, I would just say to walk, right? And it can't be, whereas walking can have a person, right? I walk, that's first person. You walk, that's second person. He walks, that's third person. The infinitive cannot have a, excuse me, a person because it literally is not defined. So it just means to walk, T-O, walk. And this will make more sense as you go through the exercises, I imagine. All right, let's go ahead and start chapter 3, and we'll just take a crack at it as the book presents it. And let's practice our pronunciations while we're here. Can someone read the very first word?
Adelphi.
Uh,
Adelphi.
where is the stressor?
Oh, in the end, so Adelphi.
Bravo, sosto. And what's the article that adjoins it?
That I do not know.
Okay, no worries. And so the article, literally it's right next to it, is e.
Mhm.
So the word the sister in Greek is e adelphi.
What does E mean?
It's just the word for the in the feminine.
Okay. This.
So when the vocabulary here is giving you like a little one singular letter right next to the word, it's telling you what the article is for that word. And that's really helpful because that gives you the gender, right? It's not like Latin has no articles. So you have to memorize every single gender of every single word in Latin. It's a miserable experience. Greek is beautiful. If you memorize the article, you know the gender. And when you see the article, that's tells you what the gender of the word is. So, E Adelphi, that would be the sister. Are there any English words we can think of What city in Pennsylvania reminds us of this word?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, absolutely. Which literally means like sibling love, Philadelphia. Now, this is specifically sister and not brother, and we know that from the ending. And it seems like this whole chapter is just first declension nouns. We don't have to know what the difference is between first, second, and third declension right now, but usually first declension nouns are going to be almost entirely feminine. So when you see that ita, that little squiggly letter, that's a good indicator that that word is probably feminine. Now the article tells us it's definitely feminine, it can't be anything else. I Adelphi, the sister. And if it was supposed to be the brother, O Adelphos. But we'll get to that later. So beautiful. I Adelphi. Let's continue practicing our pronunciation. Who can do the second word?
Folks, by the way, this is extremely interactive. So just you can unmute yourself and just keep speaking.
Please, please, yeah. Please feel free to stay unmuted.
I'll go. It's
Please.
aletheia. Ale. I think the emphasis should be on A and E. Is it
Oh.
aletheia?
Well, let me ask you a question. Why should the emphasis be on A, Alpha?
I see this squiggly line on alpha.
Beautiful. Okay, let's address that. In ancient Greek, they had breathing tones that have fallen into disuse. So when you see in the, and it only applies to a vowel that begins the word. So if a word begins with a vowel, it has to have either the rough breathing mark, sorry, the soft breathing mark or the rough breathing mark. In pronunciation, it makes no difference now. Essentially, when you see that squiggly line, you can completely ignore it because the way Greek has evolved is you no longer hear the breathing. So for instance, one word like the last word in this vocabulary is ora. The way the ancients would have pronounced it is hora. That's where we get hour from. And that's why even now the word hour in English has a silent H. You can ignore that entirely now. That is no longer, that was only for one time period and range in ancient Greek society. What it does do, however, is there are some words that are spelt exactly the same and there's no difference between them except for the rough and soft breathing marks. In those cases, that's literally the only time you need to pay attention to what the breathing mark is, but I digress. So all that to say, go ahead and ignore when you see a word that begins with a vowel, go ahead and ignore the breathing marks, which literally look like an apostrophe.
All right.
So
So
you were correct. The stressor is on the second syllable, the ita.
all right. So aletheia.
Bravo. Aletheia.
Aletheia.
Bravo. So aletheia, and that just means truth. And today, when I'm in Greece, you'll hear that word a lot as a question. Aletheia? Truly? It's literally how they use it. Like they use mean, are you telling me the truth? Aletheia? Honestly? Sorry, useless mnemonic devices. All right. Third word. Who wants to try to pronounce it?
Vasilia.
Okay, super close. Where is the stressor?
On the iota at the end.
Bravo.
So
So-
wait, I don't know. I don't know.
No, you had it. You absolutely had it.
So like how would I emphasize an iota? Like how would that be emphasized?
Okay. So when two vowels come together, they create what's called a diphthong, meaning they make their own vowel. So when you see an epsilon and a iota next to each other, as you see here in Vasilia, right? That iota and that epsilon create essentially an the iota and the epsilon essentially create a iota. So it's almost as if that epsilon is useless that you
Okay.
see there. So it would essentially be a combination of those two vowels that creates a new vowel, just iota by itself, if you will.
So I would essentially act as if the epsilon isn't there.
Yeah, when you see an epsilon and iota together, it essentially negates the epsilon. It turns it into a iota.
Mm. So I don't really know how that'd be pronounced because honestly, when I read it with the epsilon and without the epsilon, in my mind it sounds the same, which is Leah.
It should.
So,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So it would be Basilia, like I originally said it, or would it be different?
Well, you said it perfectly. It's just where the stressor is. And so let's
Oh,
forget
okay.
about Greek for a second.
hmm
Let's think about some words that have stressors. For instance, how do you say St. John Chrysostom? Where's the stressor in Chrysostom?
I have no idea.
Is it
Sure.
in the first syllable?
Say again?
Is it-
Chrysostom.
Okay, so you're saying it differently, and that's okay. And you just move the stressor over to the next syllable. So I said Chrysostom, and the stressor's on the first syllable, Chrysostom. You said Chrysostom, and that's fine. And that puts the stressor on the second syllable, Chrysostom. So, and what the stressor does is it essentially says emphasize this and then sort of wrap the rest of the word. Just get that word out of the way. So let's pick a turbulent. Where's the stressor in the word turbulent?
The first half.
First,
The first syllable, turbulent. If I were to say turbulent, you'd be like, that's weird. Or on the last syllable, turbulent. Be like, that's also weird. Turbulent. It's on the first syllable. I don't know if that was at all helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. So now keeping in mind, and also the stressors can only be on the last syllable, the penultimate syllable, or the antepenultimate syllable. Just as a rule in Greek, it can never be before that. But anyway, so let's try the word one more time, keeping in mind that the stressor is on the penultimate syllable.
Hmm. So I would say the first half fast and slow down towards the end.
Bravo. Perfect.
So Basilia. Wait.
Beautiful.
Oh, wait, that's it?
Perfect.
Oh. Okay.
Basilia. You got it.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
And of course, in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, what is the monster that Harry Potter kills?
Basilisk.
The basilisk, right? It literally means like the king snake. Because the word basilia means kingdom, reign, rule. The word for king is vasilos. So when you hear like Vasil, Basil, you can think monarchy, royalty. Oh, yeah. Moving on. Who wants to try the next word?
Igi.
Igi, perfect. And what does that mean? Earth, soil, land. Of course, who is the goddess of the earth in ancient Greek mythology?
Gaia.
Gaia. Right, and so that's where the word comes from. Beautiful. Who wants to try the next word?
I can try.
Please.
Idosa.
Oh, very close, very close. Well done. So that little E looking squiggly letter is actually an X.
Oh. Idoxa.
Perfect. Boom.
Okay.
Right, and that's of course where we get orthodoxy from. And the word doxa has actually shifted in meaning. So in Attic Greek, it more meant belief. But when you get to Koine Greek, Koine Greek, it more means glory. And so you'll see that all the time in Greek. As Greek develops, the word changes. Not to be overly crass, but like the modern Greek F word is the ancient Greek word for wedding. So when you read John 2, where you have the wedding of Cana and Galilee, some modern Greeks start to smirk because they're hearing a bad word. So that's just like an example of how words transition in meaning over time. They share some semblance of an original meaning, but Anyway, I digress. All right, and the next word.
Ecclesia.
Bravo. Ecclesia. Let's unpack that word a little bit too. The first syllable is ek, which literally means out. We'll see that later, I'm sure. And then klesia literally means calling. So of course, church means call out. All right, because we are, of course, the ones who have been called out of the world. Bravo. Who wants to try the next word? We're moving on to the right side of the column.
Anybody, folks? Just go ahead and unmute and try it. There's no. Yeah, go ahead.
Echo,
One more time, sorry.
echo,
Perfect. Echo, I have. Beautiful. All right, and the next one.
Zoe.
Zoe, yep. And if you've ever named your daughter Zoe, that's where that comes from. It is the Greek word for life. Let's go back to echo for a second. What would echo be present active indicative or present active infinitive? And how do we know?
indicative present.
Indicative, absolutely. How do we know?
The last, how do you say, the last tense, like O, we have
The last
O.
letter, yeah.
Last letter. Yes.
Yeah. If it's in infinitive, it literally has to end in epsilon iota ni, literally EIN. So from the two verbs we've learned so far, if it doesn't end in EIN, it's not infinitive. And that omega is very common of present active indicative. All right, and we'll get to more of that. And the next word.
Folks, go ahead. Who would like to try? Imera.
Imera, bravo. That just means day. So you hear Greek say kalimera, good day. Beautiful. And the next word.
Policy.
Ah, okay.
One more time.
Policy. Etalacy.
Okay, super close. What's the last letter in the word?
Oh, it's R.
Uh-huh.
Thalassa.
Perfect. Thalassa, right? Those are all the only vowels in this word is an alpha. And of course, the city I'm in right now as I'm talking to you is Thessaloniki, which literally means victory of the sea. All right, beautiful. All right, and now the next word for any doctors in the room.
Cardia.
Very close. You put the stressor on the alpha.
Let's say cardia.
Perfect. Boom. Cardia. And I'm sorry for harping on pronunciation. It as annoying as it is, it makes life so much easier in the future to sort of correct these things in the beginning. So forgive me if I'm being very pedantic with it now.
No, it's helpful. Thank you.
No, very,
Uh,
very helpful. And what is happening is that I'm doing kind of correspondence between what we hear at Divine Liturgy and all those sounds and all the emphasis are coming back. So thank you so much for
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a big liturgical word. Anos comentas cardias, like lift up our hearts to the Lord. Thank you so much. So if you're a cardiologist, that's where that comes from. And the next word.
Ora.
Oh, sorry, the one before it.
Oh. Let's see. That's Fi U. I forgot what that letter is.
Which one? The last one or the second one?
Both the second last and the last. I know that's fee and that's what's the other one called? I know it just makes a U sound, but then I forgot what the V looking one and the N looking one are. I forgot what those two are.
Sure, sure. So let's go through it. So the first letter is a phi, and that makes the
Mm-hmm.
f sound, as you correctly said. That
Mm-hmm.
second letter that looks like a W, believe it or not, is an O.
Omega.
Omega, bravo. And Greek has two O's. Omicron and omega, literally small o, little o. Omicron, which literally looks like an O. And then omega. And they both make the exact same noise, but I guess in ancient Greek, the Omicron sounded like ah, and the omega sounded like o, but they both make in now modern o sounds. So far the first two word letters make fo. What's that third letter? That looks like a V, but
Let me look in my
absolutely
notes.
isn't, and throws
Oh,
off
that's
English
an N.
speakers some. That's an N, yeah. So ni.
Me and then that N. Let me see what I have in my notes. Do I have that N in my notes? Um, I don't have that one in my notes. Hang on.
No worries, that's all right. So that is ita. And as you heard, it makes the E sound, as most vowels in Greek do. Most vowels in Greek make the same exact sound. It's very frustrating. So put that all together. How should that word sound?
So
Ironically, the word means
P,
sound.
omega, N, and E. So phone.
Say it one more time.
Phone.
Well, what about the last letter? What sound does that make?
E. So phone, like normal phone.
Well, in Greek, you don't have any silent letters, right? Greek, every
Oh,
letter
okay.
is pronounced. Always. It's a very
So
phonetic.
phone.
So close.
Phony.
So, yeah, perfect. Phony, right? That's a good example of where the stressor is. Because if you had put it on the first syllable, it would literally be phony. But this is phony, which literally means voice or sound, right? Iphonitukiu, the voice of the Lord. And that's of course where the English word phone comes from. So
Mm-hmm.
phony, bravo. And last but not least,
Ora.
ora, ora, the hour. Sometimes in a sort of metaphorical sense, the time of tiene
Mm-hmm.
ora. This is the time, the hour. Beautiful. All right. So these are all first declension nouns. So who can read for me sort of section 16, the first declension?
Just that first paragraph there.
Please. The
Okay.
first two paragraphs that make section 16. Yeah.
Okay. A declension is a group of nouns or pronouns or adjectives that have similar inflectional forms to show their function in a sentence. Nouns in English have different forms to show number, singular or plural, but grammatical function in English must be indicated by word order or by additional words such as prepositions. Because Greek is an inflected language, it can express grammatical relationships simply by the forms of nouns. Word order is therefore freer in Greek. This allows for subtle shifts of emphasis that English may only be able to express paraphrasically or by annotation. There are three declensions in Greek. The first declension contains a large group of feminine nouns. See, I'm gonna assume S17 on gender of Greek nouns, ending in alpha, a, or eta. A smaller group of first declension nouns are the masculine in gender. Are masculine in gender and will be considered in a later lesson.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yes, so it'll be ending in alpha, or you said eta. How would you pronounce that?
Wait, what?
So in the second to last sentence,
Mm-hmm.
feminine nouns ending in alpha, or we said
Eta.
almost all the vowels make not eta.
No.
What sound does that make?
E.
E. So how would you pronounce the word,
So
the
Ita.
letter?
Oh, okay,
Eta.
I
Yeah,
get it.
perfect. Perfect. No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Alpha, Vita. That's literally where alphabet comes from. Perfect. So alpha or eta, those are sort. You see a word ending in one of those two. Safe to say that's going to be a feminine word. Even in modern languages, right? Like Rosita or Andriana or whatever. I don't know. It's 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm like slurring in my speech. So those are the first declension nouns. Most of them, they'll give us. They said the masculine first declension nouns later, and we'll talk more about that as it comes up. Can someone? Ooh, that's a long one, but why not? Can someone read all of section 17? It's a long one. I'm sorry.
All right, I'll try.
Please. Thank you.
Characteristic of Greek nouns. Greek nouns have three characteristics: case, number, and gender. As in English, there are two numbers in Biblical Greek, singular and plural. There are three genders in Greek, masculine, feminine, and neuter. In English, only third-person singular pronouns, he, she, it, and certain other nouns referring to persons, man, woman, actor, actress, have gender. Most English nouns are regarded as neuter or simply lacking in gender. In contrast, all Greek nouns have gender. Most Greek nouns referring to persons have the grammatical gender that corresponds to their sex. The Greek words for woman, sister, and queen are feminine. Those for man, brother, and king are masculine. But abstract nouns and those referring to inanimate objects also have grammatical gender in Greek. Thus, the Greek word for land is feminine, but the word for world is masculine, and nothing regarding the meanings of these words is conveyed by their genders. The gender of such nouns can seldom be predicted and must be learned by observation. It will be helpful to remember that gender is a grammatical category, not a biological one. A case is the characteristic of greatest importance for syntax. Greek has 5 cases: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, and vocative. Greek can convey a variety of syntactical relationships by means of the cases. For now, we will consider the most basic functions of the 5 cases. The basic function of the nominative case is to name or point out. It is used for the subject of a finite verb and for the predicative nominative, a predicate nominative. A predicate nominative is a noun that completes the meaning of a linking verb, such as to be, to become, etc. Consider these sentences. A woman buys the cloth. The buyer is a woman. In the first sentence, the woman would be in the nominative case as the subject. In the second sentence, woman is the predicate nominative. Example, Adelphi graphi. A sister writes, Iyi estin Vasilia. The earth is a kingdom. In the second example, earth is the subject nominative, kingdom is the predicate nominative. See paragraph 43 for a fuller explanation of this construction. The basic function of the genitive case is to describe or define as an adjective does. This descriptive function can often be conveyed in English by the word of. Thus, Vasilia Doxis could be translated a kingdom of glory and would mean about the same as a glorious kingdom. A specific and very common use of the genitive is to show possession. Example, Phoni Adelphis, a voice of a sister, or a sister's voice. The dative case functions in many ways, usually to express personal interest or relationship. For example, as an indirect object. An indirect object is that person or thing to or for whom the action of the verb is performed. Indirect objects are common with verbs of saying, speaking, writing, giving, and the like. Example, Lero Alician Ecclesia. I speak truth to an assembly, a church. Grafete Adelphi. You're writing to a sister. The accusative case usually limits or qualifies the actions of a verb. Its most common use is as the direct object. A direct object receives the action of a transitive verb. Examples, Vlepomen yin, we see land. Echusi gavian, do they have a heart? Oh, Echusi kardian. Do they have a heart? The vocative case has a single function, direct address. Occasionally, the vocative has its own distinct form, but often its form will be identical to that of the nominative. Example, O adelphi vlepis. O sister, do you see? In this sentence, the function of adelphi shows that the form is vocative. The nominative singular form of a noun is its lexical form, that is, the form under which it is listed in the dictionary or lexicon.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. I think we might spend the rest of our time just on this section because that is probably the most important thing to learn in Greek. If you have a notebook, because that just filled you with information and I'm gonna simplify it. If you have a notebook, let me help you make sense of what that was just saying. So there are 5 cases. So go ahead and write down the 5 cases. And I'm on my phone, so I'm sorry I can't type it out to you. But the first one is nominative. 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 And what that case does is essentially it indicates that the word is the subject. All right, so let's try this in English. I'm going to give you a sentence. I want you to tell me what the subject is in the sentence. All right, so here's the sentence. The cat is in the tree. What is the subject / the nominative noun in that sentence? The cat is in the tree.
The cat.
The cat. It is the cat that's doing the action. Beautiful. Now, if I were to say, I am going to the mall. And that's a bad example for Greek because Greek just uses verbs and doesn't even have verb. But anyways, in English, just to get your mind through what the nominative is. What is the nominative in I am going to the mall? Or what is the subject, excuse me? I'm going to the mall.
Folks, just feel free to unmute and say something.
I am.
I, yeah.
Ah,
I
okay.
is going to the mall.
Mhm.
This bracelet was cheap. What's the subject?
The bracelet.
Yes, and even cheap is also the subject because it's describing bracelet. So that would also be in the nominative as well. Avto είναι φθινόπωρο in modern Greek, right? It has to agree. Beautiful. And let's do one more example. The man was punched by the woman. This one's a tricky one. What's the subject?
The woman. No?
Any
Punching.
other answers? Say again.
Punching?
Not punching. The subject in
man.
that sentence would be the man.
Mm.
But that's a tricky one because he's the passive subject. So he is being punched. The man was punched. So that's tricky because he's not the active subject like the cat runs to the mall or whatever. The man was punched. So so it's a passive verb, so it's a little tricky. And technically, the woman is the object because she was the one who had been doing the punching. I know it's a little weird, but that's what happens. So do we understand now what nominative / the subject is? All right. So let's talk about genitive. 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 So the genitive case is the possessive case. So it literally indicates something belonging to something else. a lot of Greek names do this. So philosophia, right? Love of wisdom, right? Sophia would be in the genitive. But let me give you some examples in English and tell me what the genitive would be. I love the father of my wife. What is the genitive in that sentence? I love the father of my wife.
The father.
Not father, because father is the object of the sentence. I love the father. But the father of what?
Wife.
Of my wife, right? I love the father of my wife. So the genitive is that which is doing the possessing. So he's not just any father, he's the father of my wife. In Greek, tis gynekos mou. So I received the certificate of completion, whatever. I don't know why my subconscious is making up sentences the way it is right now. I received the certificate of completion. What would be the possessive / genitive in this sentence?
Of completion.
Beautiful, beautiful. And let's do one more. Irenaeus is a man of God. What would the genitive be?
God.
Yep, of God. Beautiful. All right, so I think we have it. All right, so that's the genitive.
Uh, can I quickly ask a question?
Please.
So the genitive, would it be of God or just God? Because in the earlier example, it was the same thing, right? So I love the father of my wife, and here my wife, would it be just wife or my wife? So what falls under genitive? Is it the whole thing?
Yeah, it would be the whole clause. Because, again, the word of doesn't exist in Greek. It's expressed through the case, through the word. So, for instance, as we see in the example coming up, if you look at section 16, ora, that just means hour, right? If you so just literally the next page, ora, hour, and then you have the genitive horas, which literally means of an hour,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So the entire phrase of an hour is conveyed in that case. So the word horas literally means of an hour, whereas ora just means an hour. Does that make sense?
It actually is making sense. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the next case, the dative. Dative. In English high school grammar, we often refer to this as the indirect object. The indirect object. So, for instance, sorry, I'm so sleepy. An indirect object. I want a pizza for my brother. Whatever my mind wants to say at 3 a.m. I want a pizza for my brother. What would be the indirect object in that sentence?
For my brother.
Beautiful. Right? Because the direct object was the pizza, but the indirect was my brother. And let me give you another sentence. I want to send a letter to my mom. I want to send a letter to my mom. What would be the indirect object? The dative.
To my mom.
To my mom. Yep. So when you see a dative, you can essentially translate that as to or for, depending on the context. So again, as you see on page 18, the dative of ora is ora. There's just like a squiggly line beneath the A at the end, indicating it as the dative. So you can translate that as to an hour or for an hour, right? So I want to play basketball for an hour. It would look like the dative ora, omega rho alpha with the iota subscript. That's what the squiggly line is. And I'll talk more about that later. Okay, beautiful. The fourth case is the accusative. ACC, US, AT, IVE. Accusative. That is the direct object. The direct object. So the first four cases are the most important. We'll get to the vocative, but the first four are the most important. Right? The vocative is a very, very specific case, and we'll talk about it momentarily. But now I'm going to give you a sentence. All right? It's about to get a little tricky. And I want you to tell me what the subject, the genitive, the dative, and the accusative is in every sentence I give you. Are you guys ready? The husband loves the father of his wife for reasons. The man loves the father of his wife for reasons.
The man is nominative.
Beautiful.
Of his wife is genitive.
Yes, of his wife.
Father loves the father. Sorry, the man loves the father. Father is accusative.
Beautiful.
And what was the last part of the sentence?
For reasons.
For reasons. For reasons is dative.
Beautiful. Right on the money. And let's try one more sentence. Okay, the general ordered the soldier to deliver the package. The general ordered the soldier to deliver the package of the vice president. There's no reason for you to psychoanalyze why my brain is constructing sentences the way it is at 3:15 in the morning. But the general sent, what did I say? The general sent a package. The general ordered the soldier to, oh gosh. All right. What did I say?
The general orders the soldiers
To deliver
the package.
to the vice president.
Package
yeah,
of the vice president.
Of the vice president.
Okay. So let's go let's do every single noun in there. So the general, what case is he?
Nominative.
Bravo. The general orders the soldiers. What case is the soldiers? The general orders the soldiers.
Accusative? No.
Accusative, they're the direct object. Beautiful. The general orders the soldiers. What did I say?
To deliver
To deliver.
the package.
Oh, that would just be another accusative, actually. That was a bad example. But yeah, so there you have two accusatives in the to deliver the package
Okay.
of the vice president. What would of the vice president be?
Genitive.
Beautiful. So you had a nominative, accusative, genitive. And let's say they did it for their country. What would for their country be?
Dative.
Dative. Beautiful. Okay, sorry about that. My very slow moving brain at 3:20 a.m. All right, beautiful. And let's talk about the vocative. The vocative is actually really easy. Irenaeus,
Yes.
that was the vocative.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So that's all it is. Essentially, is when you're addressing someone or something like Andra, oh man, Panagia Theotoke, oh all holy Theotokos, Theemu, my God. That's all the vocative is. It's when you're calling, when you're addressing someone. So naturally, all of these can have articles except for the vocative, because you can never address someone as the Irenaeus. All right, so that's the vocative. So if I were to say, Mr. President, Mr. President, and that's an example of the vocative. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Beautiful. All right. So I thought that was important to stress. Sorry if we took too much time on that, but it's literally like the foundational building block of ancient language.
So Andrew, I suggest, it is 3:20 in the morning over there. You've given us the core piece that we'll keep practicing it for the entire week. So if you want to call it a day, I think this is a good point. If you think so, it's your decision.
Sure. If you're signaling to me, Andrew, you're seemingly losing your mind, that's fine.
Oh no!
Yes.
Even while losing your mind, you speak more beautifully than most people. So
You're
yeah.
too complimentary, and thank you. God bless you, brother. Well, would you like to conclude with prayer?
Yes, please.
Very good.
Lord, thank you for blessing us with all these people to help us learn the language in which your word was written in the first place. And thank you for Father Sophronius and Professor Andrew, who are kind enough to lead us into this. This is opening up your divine liturgy for us. To the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and forever, to the ages of ages. Amen. Thank you, folks.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful Independence Day weekend.
Bye,
And
everyone.
let me know if there's anything I can do.
Thank you. Bye.
So much.
Ali Nikta. Good night. Good night.
Right.